This Notebook LM video explores the paradox of Christian unity, how efforts to unify the Church through councils and doctrinal boundaries often created division, while the biblical vision points to a deeper unity rooted in inclusion and divine promise. Since the Council of Nicaea, Orthodoxy was defined by exclusion, exiling dissenters and labeling them heretics.
Let's talk about unity. It sounds pretty simple, right? A good thing, something we all strive for. But what if I told you that in the history of Christianity, the search for unity is one of the most complex, most dramatic, and, believe it or not, one of the most divisive stories out there? So where does this all start? Well, it goes right back to the beginning. In the Gospel of John, Jesus prays for his followers to have this perfect, almost divine kind of oneness. This isn't just a friendly suggestion. It's framed as the absolute ideal. This prayer basically sets the gold standard for what the Christian community is supposed to look like, a powerful, united front. And right here, this is the paradox we're going to unpack. What if the very things people did to create that oneness, to build that unified community, were the exact same things that drew hard lines in the sand, created insiders and outsiders, and actually sparked centuries of conflict? Now, before we get into all the drama, it's so important to understand the dream itself. This desire for a single, unified faith is woven deep into the fabric of Christianity. It's not just a nice to have, it's seen as a core part of the whole mission. The idea was pretty straightforward. A unified church would be the most powerful proof of its message. You see, as that prayer suggests, their unity was meant to be this massive, convincing sign to the rest of the world. So from the very beginning, the stakes for getting this right felt incredibly high. Okay, so with that high-stakes goal locked in, early church leaders and even Roman emperors got to work. But their approach to creating unity wasn't about finding some gentle consensus. It was about drawing lines. Right? How do you actually do that? How do you take a sprawling, diverse, and often pretty argumentative movement and make it one? Well, you do what people still do today when things get messy. You call a meeting. A very, very important meeting. Let's jump in our time machine and go back to the year 325 AD. The Roman Emperor Constantine is a Christian, and he's got a problem. The church is fighting, and I mean fiercely fighting, over a huge theological question, and all this disunity is threatening the stability of his entire empire. So his solution? Get all the bishops together at a place called Nicaea and tell them to sort it out once and for all. And they weren't arguing over some minor detail. The debate was about the single most important figure in the faith, Jesus Christ. Who was he really? The answer to that question was going to define the future of everything. The whole conflict basically boiled down to this. On one side, you had the view that would eventually become the official one, that Christ is of the exact same divine stuff, the Greek word is homoousios, as God the Father. But on the other side, you had the Arian view, which argued that Christ, while still divine, was a being created by the Father, which means he wasn't co-eternal with him. A subtle difference maybe, but with enormous consequences. And this is where that strategy of unity by exclusion really kicks into high gear. To create what they called orthodoxy, which literally just means correct belief, they first had to define what was in. But, and this is the key, by defining what was correct, they automatically had to define what was incorrect. So the bottom line is this. The Council of Nicaea didn't create unity by finding a happy middle ground. It created unity by picking a side, declaring it the winner, and formally cutting off everybody who disagreed. The method was simple, but pretty brutal. First, they wrote the Nicene Creed, a statement of faith that everyone was expected to accept. They intentionally used that super specific non-biblical Greek word homoousios because it left zero wiggle room for the Arian side. Next, they officially slapped the label of heresy, a wrong belief, on Arianism. And finally, they enforced it. Arius and the bishops who sided with him were excommunicated and sent into exile. So yeah, unity was achieved, but it came at the cost of creating a massive division. But that historical institutional approach, that's not the only vision of unity you find in Christian thought, not by a long shot. There's another, completely different idea found right inside the scriptures themselves, one that has nothing to do with human councils or earthly structures. Take a look at this passage from the Apostle Paul. He talks about a divine plan to unite, get this, all things in Christ. Just think about the scale here. It's not just about believers on earth, but things in heaven and things on earth. the whole cosmos. And check out the timing. It's a plan for the fullness of time. This is a future, all-encompassing cosmic vision of unity. There's a fancy theological word for this, eschatological. It just means anything related to the final events of history, the end times. So in this view, true perfect unity isn't something humans are supposed to build right now. It's something God accomplishes way down the road. This table just makes the contrast crystal clear. On one hand, you've got that institutional unity, like at Nicaea. It's achieved by human councils right now through the exclusion of heresy. It's doctrinal, it's structural. On the other hand, you have this cosmic unity. It's achieved by a divine plan in the future through the inclusion of all things. It's spiritual and universal. I mean, these are two profoundly different ways of thinking about the very same idea. So what are we supposed to do with these two competing visions? One is achieved by drawing lines, the other by erasing them. One is for now, the other is for the future. The fascinating part is that Christianity has been living in the tension between these two ideas ever since. And this isn't really about deciding which view is right and which is wrong. It's more about recognizing a deep, unresolved tension that has shaped Christian history for 2,000 years. It's a constant push and pull between what is and what is still to come. And here is exactly why this all still matters. It's this ongoing struggle between two impulses, that very human desire to build, define, and protect a unified institution here and now, and the theological call to trust in a perfect, all-encompassing unity that is ultimately promised and fulfilled by God and God alone. And that leaves us with the central question, a question that has echoed all the way from the Council of Nicaea to today. Is unity an earthly fortress that we have to build and defend, carefully deciding who's in and who's out? Or is it a cosmic dawn that believers are simply meant to await in faith? The answer to that, well, it continues to shape the world.